some places were abandoned for a reason, and sometimes, when you go looking for what the world forgot, something else finds you instead. What started as just another weekend adventure into the desert turned into the kind of nightmare we still can't explain. And honestly, we're lucky we made it back at all. This is what happened when we followed a stranger's map, deep into the Mojave Desert. This happened not even a month ago. I'm a senior in high school, and I've lived in Nevada my whole life. There's not a ton to do out here, but one thing my friends and I have always been into is urban exploring. We'd hunt for abandoned buildings, forgotten service tunnels, dead malls, anything that felt neglected. We'd climb through broken fences, snap pictures, sometimes sneak onto rooftops or down into creepy basements. It wasn't about vandalizing or doing anything illegal. It was purely about the vibe. The only guy in our group who always dug up the strangest places was Charles. He was the quiet, mysterious type. He'd show up with locations none of us had ever heard of. Half the time, I didn't even bother asking how he found them. One day, he sent us a screenshot from some sketchy Instagram page, low follower count, blurry pictures, tons of unsettling comments under the posts. The caption on the post just said something like, "Dozens of forgotten mine shafts in the Mojave Desert if you know where to look." According to Charles, he had been messaging with the account owner, and whoever ran it had given him some areas to scope out. That was all Charles needed. He instantly got obsessed with the idea. That Saturday, it was me, Charles, and our other friend, James. I had a Wrangler that was perfect for desert off-roading, so we took that. We didn't have a precise address or anything, just a general region and a pin drop somewhere deep in the Mojave. The spot Charles marked was way out there, like seriously far from civilization. We turned off the main road almost half an hour earlier, and the dirt trail we were on barely looked like a road anymore. We drove around what felt like forever. No signs, no buildings, no real landmarks, just endless emptiness. I kept checking my phone even though I knew we had zero service. James was in the back seat, getting increasingly annoyed. He started telling Charles that the whole thing was a waste of time and that he'd been conned by some troll account. Charles insisted we keep looking, so we did. He's always been stubborn when it came to navigation, so I figured I'd humor him for a little while longer. Finally, just as we were about to give up, James spotted something off to the right. At first, it looked like more rock and sand, but when we got closer, we saw it. This half-collapsed wooden frame built into the side of a slope. Part of the entrance had caved in, but you could still see a dark opening behind the remaining beams. It wasn't large, but it was definitely man-made. Definitely a mine shaft. Charles didn't say anything at first. He just pulled out his phone, opened the offline map he had downloaded earlier, and dropped a pin on the spot. Then he turned to James and said, "Told you." James replied that he just got lucky. But even I had to admit, it was kind of nuts. We'd been driving in circles in the middle of nowhere, and somehow we'd actually stumbled onto one. I parked a few yards away from the entrance, on a flat patch of dirt. We all climbed out and geared up. Charles had even brought masks for us. We walked up to the mine, and it looked even sketchier up close. Charles picked up a rock and tossed it in. We listened. A few seconds later, we heard it clang a few times, then silence. It was deep, really deep. Charles looked at us and said that if we tripped on the way down, we were probably dead. We started our descent. Luckily, the shaft wasn't a vertical drop. It sloped sharply downward, but not so steep that we needed to climb hand over hand. The ground was loose and uneven, and old wooden beams lined parts of the wall. Shockingly, they still seemed pretty solid. The farther down we went, the colder it became, and quieter. It was unnervingly silent. We couldn't even see any light from the entrance anymore. Eventually, we reached what felt like the bottom. The shaft leveled out, and opened into a broader tunnel branching in several directions. It looked exactly how you'd picture it. Old beams every few yards, rusted rails half buried in dust, and thick layers of grime on everything. There were bits of wood and rusted metal scattered around, maybe old cart parts or tools. It smelled musty, if that makes any sense. Honestly, I didn't realize how lucky we were to have masks until then. We picked one of the tunnels and started wandering. None of us spoke much. We weren't really looking for anything. We were just exploring. Honestly, there wasn't much interesting stuff down there. The place seemed pretty picked over. But then we heard something. It was faint, somewhere down the tunnel. It sounded like something heavy being dragged. At first I thought I imagined it, but then I saw Charles had frozen too. James quickly motioned for us to turn off our flashlights, so we did. We just stood there in total darkness, straining to listen. The sound came again. It was a scraping noise, like metal, or maybe even wood being dragged across stone. It was hard to pinpoint because of the echo, but it definitely seemed to be getting closer. We stood frozen in the pitch dark for maybe 30 seconds, maybe longer. It was impossible to tell. The scraping kept inching louder. It wasn't super close yet, but that somehow made it even worse. Then James accidentally flicked his flashlight on for a split second. I wanted to punch him. The scraping noise stopped dead. Everything went totally silent. Then, out of nowhere, there was this massive metallic crash somewhere deeper in the tunnel, like whatever was being dragged had just been thrown down. And right after that came the most horrific, guttural scream I have ever heard. Applause. It didn't even sound human. We turned and bolted, not caring about the noise we made. I have never run faster in my entire life. I could hear footsteps pounding somewhere behind me, and I was sure I was about to have a panic attack. I was last in line, trying to keep up, when I tripped over something. One of my shoes flew off, and I struggled to keep from face planting. I didn't dare waste time going back for it. I just kept running, ignoring the sharp pain in my foot. Up ahead, Charles and James had already reached the slope and were climbing. I practically threw myself at it. When I say climbing, that incline half barefoot was the most painful thing I've ever done. I'm not exaggerating. Every few seconds, I picked up a new splinter. If it hadn't been for the adrenaline, I don't think I would have made it. By the time I finally burst out into the open air, my foot was destroyed. I had to lean on James and Charles just to get to the car. There was no way I could drive, so James jumped behind the wheel. I barely had the door shut before he floored it. I don't know if anything chased us up the shaft, but we weren't about to stick around and find out. We drove in total silence all the way to the nearest hospital. The pain in my foot was unbearable. I honestly thought I might pass out. I ended up getting a tetanus shot, and even after they pulled out all the splinters and cleaned everything up, I couldn't walk normally for days. A few days later, once I could limp around a little better, James admitted he'd dropped his wallet somewhere near the mine, probably when he was helping me to the car. He hadn't said anything at the time, but now he thought it might be worth going back, just to the entrance. No way were we setting foot inside again. So the three of us drove back out, using the pin Charles had saved. James's wallet wasn't there, but we did find something. My shoe. It was lying a few feet from the entrance. I hobbled over and picked it up. It was shredded, like something, or someone, had bitten into it. There were clear teeth marks, and big chunks were missing. We didn't stick around much after that. None of us can come up with a logical explanation. Sure, maybe it was a homeless person living down there, but if that were the case, how the hell had they survived for so long? There was no food, no supplies. What would they even eat? Charles said that Instagram account never replied when he tried to DM them about what happened. It's going to be a very long time before I go urban exploring in the desert again. We still don't know what we ran into that night, and honestly, I'm not sure I want to. If you want more real stories like this, hit that like button, subscribe, and let me know in the comments if you'd ever dare to explore a place like that. Stay safe out there.